what is light to you? Because you say in the film that boy says, "Na, light becomes stories and then stories become films." And who wrote that line? Did you write it yourself? It was quite interesting because it kind of...
So I think, yeah, of course I wrote it myself, but it came from something what I lived as a kid. That, first time when I saw the movie in cinema hall, of course, for first few minutes, I was fascinated by the screen, what was unfolding on the screen. I must have been 9-year old, but very quickly I was really mesmerized by the shaft of light which were playing in cinema hall. These days with modern technology and modern cinema hall, we don't see that anymore. We just see the image projected. But in the countryside, the atmosphere used to be very dusty. Plus, there are pigeons in the cinema hall. So the projection beam, the way it used to come from cinema hall to go to the screen is very pronounced, and you literally see the shaft of light, different colored, dancing in above your head. And I was like totally fascinated by that, It's just this beam of light just going from one hole to the filling up the screen. And so my first discussion as a kid always was how to catch the light. The obsession was that if the stories are told on the screen, that they are coming from light. There is somebody in that little booth throwing the light, or light mein se kahaniyan nikal rahi hai, like that was the naive way understanding of kid,
What was that feeling inside that projectionist room? Like, what was it?
Oh, I would never forget. The first thing I remember the place used to has a too strong smell. One is celluloid. Celluloid had this strong smell. And second was, there used to be this arc light lamp, rod which used to burn. So they used to have another. So that was like the first thing. And he had opened the window to show me the light. It's extremely bright. Like I had never seen such bright light, artificial bright light as a kid ever in my life. Once I sort of discovered cinema and the projection booth, then we literally, what was happening little bit at a government school and what was happening in cinema booth, one sort of came together to try and see that how to catch the light, and only if we catch it, we can project it. So we had soon figured out that, the mirror, you can catch the sun, and bounce it off into a dark area, the light, and that beam can be used like in the projection booth to project single putty, single frame. So very soon, all the kids, we started stealing all the mirror from their home, and bringing it to this dark khandar, like a ruin. And we used to experiment, and we had ultimately succeeded, in projecting single frame of movie frame, which we used to project it on a white t-shirt or whatever white we find. Everything we want in life as a kid used to come from Indian Railway, Western Railway, because we used to spend 1 hour to go to school, 1 hour to come back, 2 hours, and the rest of the life on a station and in the empty park compartment. That was the area to play. That was the only playground. There was nothing else there. So we knew the train ka dabba inside out, what's there as a kid. So train mein wo chote bulb hote hain, small bulb. So we used to steal those bulbs, take out the filament from inside, and keeping the bulb intact, fill it up with clear water. Mirror ka beam, mirror has a sunlight which comes, and you hold the bulb here and you hold upside down, film ka patti behind, it will project, simple. We were obsessed about cinema, we try to make our projector, try to make shutter of the projector. Then we started, even as a kid, stealing reels from railway parcel room, ek reel chori kar lete the, and then we had enough reel to project, so we did a lot of this thing. I got into trouble for that also. If you remember earlier, Patre ki peti mein 12-14 reel jati thi Bollywood ke filmon ki, and only way the way it was transported was through railway. And we as a kid never knew ke uske andar film hai. Dabba to we had seen it since we were born. When I befriended a projectionist called Mohammed Bhai, I had started swapping my school lunchbox with him. I said, and he used to let me watch movies for free. Then one day when the movie was
हाँ,
changing,
हाँ,
I saw this patre ki patti, which looks like a parcel box.
हाँ.
And I said, what is inside? He said, there's a full film. And I said, shit, this is what I've seen all my life. And I
Yeah.
got a whole bacha party together, and we all said, like, do you
Hmm.
guys know the movie we want to see is going every day in front of our eyes. It's a partly autobiographical, and the film is set around 2011. The reason being 2011, 10, 11 is because this is when not only India, but
The
across the world, most of
celluloid.
the, celluloid went away. And
Hmm.
like, we are, of course, famous to forget people who really mattered. Like, the projectionist whom I knew, Mohammed Bhai, he used to be in big demand. So when the digital came, they all were fired from the job. This is not 1,
Oh.
2, 3,000. According to his statistic, 2 to 3 lakh people were fired. Most of these people didn't know how to work with computer, how to download DCP, digital cinema package, which was all the modern technologies. Nobody from industry created any kind of fund to help them. They are still jobless, roaming here and there. So this is where the idea of last film show, Chhello Show, was born, little bit starting with this encounter. That what happened to this projectionist. And he had, he was very sad because he was a third generation projectionist. And most of the projector operators used to teach within their family, apne ladke ko, bhanje ko sikha do, they will run the projector. Because no one was interested in this job. They were very demanding. You arrive at 11 a.m. and you finish at 2 a.m. in the night. They were the longest running job to run film projection.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll have assistants. So, they would train their own kids, brothers, nephews. So the job remained pretty much within the family. And he had
Within the
lost his
family,
job. Yeah. And he was a third generation. He lost his job. He said, I don't know anything else to do. I don't know how to read or write. And so I remember we were just sitting by the roadside having chai. He said, Abhi to aap to bade aadmi ho gaye ho, filmmaker ban gaye ho, all that, this kind of a village talk. And then he said, ye abhi jo projector hai, uski Nalin bhai, chammach ban gayi, chammach, So I said, what do you mean? Arey katori chammach ban gaya, aap so rahe ho. So I said, so he basically all these projectors, which used to weigh 900 to 1,000 kilo, the projector of metal, they were all trashed, junked, and recycled, melted and recycled to make katoris and chammach, spoon. And the film reels were sort of recycled to make bangles. The whole structure of film was very simple. It was based on 5-letter F. So F for film, F for food, F for friends, F for family, and all for awaiting the future, which is F's fifth F. So the whole team, the cast and crew, everyone was focused on that. That look, this is the soul of the film. This is the spine of the film. Don't go too much out of the film. This is so you always have to know that this element have to be linked. They have to merge into each other, family and friends and food and film, and they should be totally interlinked in everything we do, whether we wear costumes, whether we design a set, or whether we do cinematography or we compose music. The whole team was made conscious of this element.
I just wanted to ask you about the compulsion for making this film, because you made other films before, and kind of like to go back, like there must have been a trigger. Did you see Mohammed Bhai like selling vegetable? But like what happened actually that you kind of thought that
so there were
this is it?
Two trigger. One was the initial trigger was this Mohammed Bhai, because he was in bad shape, and as I told you, sort of we sat and spoke about it, and I said like, wow, this is such a literally, I had compassion for all those film projectionists. And he had told me that all this is happening. Of course, I had never gone to explore all that. Mixed together with what happened to Mohammed Bhai and losing of his job and disappearance of film. So mainly around 2017-18, I started thinking about this incident, because in the same way, I was going back from my parents who lived there in Kathiawad to Ahmedabad, because that was the nearest airport, or Rajkot. It's usually 4 or 5 hour ride. And I was in a bus, they have these air-conditioned coaches. And that coach had filled with Bharat, all the women were decked up, phool yahan se yahan tak pehne hai, chudiyan. So I kept looking at those bangles, and it reminded me of last this story of celluloid, what happened to Mohammed Bhai. So then I wrote down those notes. And all that became kind of a central concept of last film show, when I started writing, and I realized that, okay, maybe in 21, 22, we'll be celebrating 10 years of disappearance of film, celluloid. So maybe it will be a good time to tell a story.
You did like apparently 3,000 auditions to get that child. And
Yes.
he probably is from the Rabari tribe. Like
Yes, he is from.
Yeah. So how did you advertise? And it's also about your childhood. Like it's also set near that Gir forest and all that. So what were you looking for in that kid? Your own self, or what was it?
So see, earlier I was looking for an actor because the whole film rests on this kid's shoulder. He's the hero, he's the protagonist. So obviously it's a huge financial investment as well. So you want a professional actor, for this role. So that's where we started to look for in Mumbai and Ahmedabad with professional child actor. But it was very disappointing phase because most of these child actors, are spoiled by popular Indian cinema and TV reality show. And they walk in with so much of confidence. Ha sir, batao kya karna hai? They are already walking like Salman Khan, or So it was really, I thought this film is never going to happen if we don't find this character. So with my casting director Dilip Shankar, we decided to go and look for non-actor in the villages where kids very rarely go to see cinema. And that's where we hit the jackpot. We found all the kids are non-actor, all of them, and including Bhavin. And the Bhavin was absolutely incredible because, when I found him, I did around 30, 40 shots of extreme close-up of his eyes only, nothing else, only eyes, to do different expressions. That, what do you do when you are scared, when you are missing your mother, when you are hungry, when you are angry, when you are happy, excited. So those shots we put together as a 40, 50 second back to back. That projection of 60 seconds was so powerful that we instantly knew that we found our Samai. In a way, I wanted this film to be so much, without being very intellectual or symbolic, about light and time.